Hello chess learners, today I am gonna show you an incredible game of AlphaZero where he sacrificed his knight against Stockfish. AlphaZero is a Google DeepMind AI chess engine which was developed to play chess games, which is why I am here to teach you AlphaZero's strategy, his tactics and his thinking process, which will help you to grow your chess skills, so let's see it. We have knight to f3, knight f6, b4, e6 and c4, and b6. Again, we have the queen's Indian defense. g3, bishop to b7, bishop to g2, all the same as in the previous game. Bishop e7, AlphaZero castles, Stockfish castles, d5, e-capture son d5, and now knight to h4. Again, the same as in the previous game. c6, c-capture son d5, knight capture son d5, and knight to f5. Knight to c7 now, getting that knight out of the way, all the same as in the previous game, and e4. And here Stockfish takes a different approach. Instead of playing bishop to f6 like in the previous game, after knight to d6 and attacking this bishop on b7, Stockfish really got into a terrible position. So after e4, d5 now. And this does seem like a more human move to me. But, you know, it's better than keep your pawn stranded on d7. So e-capture son d5, knight capture son d5, and knight to c3. Stockfish captures the knight, knight captures on c3, and not b captures on c3, but queen to g4 by AlphaZero, already threatening checkmate on g7. g6, knight to h6 with check, king to g7, and only now b captures on c3. Stockfish plays bishop to c8 with a tempo on the queen, queen to f4 now, and queen to d6, wanting to exchange queens. Now queen to a4, g5, and here Stockfish is now threatening to capture the knight, as the bishop is no longer protecting it. And AlphaZero could go for something like knight g4, and after f5, knight e3. But, you know, it seems okay for black, from my perspective. But instead, after g5, it doesn't retrieve the knight. Instead, Alpha plays rook to e1. It gives up the knight on h6. King captures on h6 and h4. And already, you can see a lot of similarities from the previous game I've shown you. This rook and the knight are not getting into the game, as Alpha is not allowing it. f6 now, and the bishop to e3. Bishop to f5, and now rook a to d1 with a tempo on the queen, queen to a3, Stockfish again wants to exchange queens. Queen to c4 now, and b5. We have h captures on g5 with check, f captures on g5, and queen to h4. Check now, as the g5 pawn is pinned. King to g6, and here we have a great move. a0 plays queen to h1. And what's the idea here? The idea here is that it's very hard to find a move for black. You can't really improve on the position, and you can't develop any of these pieces. If you try and get the knight into the game, for example, with knight to d7, you don't capture the pawn here or anything like that, but you play g4. And now, if bishop captures on g4, then you have bishop to e4 check, bishop blocks, and now rook captures on d7. You just lost the piece. And you're still getting attacked, so a0 wins the piece back. So after g4, you'd have to go for probably something like bishop to e6, but now you're getting checkmated. And now bishop to e4, you have to block this, or you get queen captures on h7. So after rook to f5, captures, 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 and something like king to f7. Queen captures on h7, check. King e8, and bishop captures on g5. The rook, the bishop, the queen are all eyeing that e7 bishop. There is no defense against this. You're getting checkmated. So after queen to h1, king to g7 was now played. We have bishop to e4, bishop back to g6, bishop captures, h captures, and now queen to h3. With some ideas of bringing the queen to e6, also the queen is adding more pressure to the d7 square. And if you play something like knight to a6 to try and develop, again you lose the rook to d7. Now this bishop is pinned, bishop to d4 is coming, and this will be terrible. This will be also black is getting checkmated. So after queen to h3, bishop to f6, getting the bishop out of the way, and king to g2, now making room for this rook to come to h1. Queen captures on a2, and now rook to h1. We have queen to g8, going back to the defense. The threat was queen to h7 checkmate. c4 now. If black captures, it would only ruin its pawn structure. So rook to e8 instead. We have bishop to d4, bishop captures, rook captures, and rook to d8. Stockfish wants to exchange rooks. But rook captures on d8, queen captures on d8, and we have queen to e6. And it's, again, Europe apiece, but like in the previous game, Stockfish can't develop neither this rook or the knight. And maybe AlphaZero is telling us something here about the queen's Indian defense. So here, knight to d7 was played by Stockfish, and this is met with rook to d1. But it doesn't matter. If knight to a6 is played, then queen to e5 wins the game immediately. If you play queen f6, then rook to h7 wins the queen. And if you play something like king to g8, then rook h8 check, king f7, rook h7 check, king f8 and queen h8, this is checkmate. So after queen to e6, knight to d7 was played, rook to d1 now pinning the knight. There's nothing black can do here. Knight to c5, now with a tempo on white queen. But rook captures, knight captures, and rook captures rook. And now Stockfish is up 2 pawns, but again, he's down the exchange like in the previous game. And this is easily winning for white. So we'll just show how the endgame went. I mean, it's a. And yeah, I accidentally said in my previous video that Stockfish was probably rated somewhere around 2400. Of course, I meant 3400, not 2400. So g4 and f3 we have here, knight f7. The rook is simply too powerful. He's going to gobble up all of the pawns. And hereafter, this king to d4 move. And it's very satisfying to say this next sentence. In this position, Stockfish resigned the game. This is something you probably never hear. I mean, whenever you've heard something like this, you should try saying it. So thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.